नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्सा. So all these things they induce a kind of devotion, a kind of connection, kind of surrendering also to Buddha, to his teachings, and to his community of disciples. After following him, who became enlightened, who became completely free from all kinds of suffering of this world. Mhm. So that kind of devotion starts with appreciation, prizing the qualities of the Buddha, the different merits and the Parmi's perfections that he fulfilled, developing great reverence, great respect. If there is respect, there is appreciation. And then automatically it becomes devotion. In that way, if we can connect to his achievements, his emancipation, his state of mind, of completely becoming free from all the defilements, uh, all the cankers, all the secretions of the mind in the form of say, our own greed, our own hatred, our own passion, lust, jealousy, anger. Actually, our real enemies are these things, which are very much there in our mind, not there in the outside. Our enemies are not there outside. Our enemies are inside our mind. And luckily, again, the friends or our army to destroy these enemies is also very much there inside our mind. The Buddhas will show this very clearly the difference between these two categories of enemies and friends which are very, very much there in our mind. They show very clearly that is what is the contribution of all Buddhas. Hmm? So, so in that way, we have to understand the right view of knowing what is the defilement, what is the cause of our suffering, and what is the energy that is very much there inside us, what is the intelligence that is very much inside us. And there are so many other factors which are wholesome, which are positive, which are powerful to destroy, to alleviate, to nullify all these negative defilements or the negative factors of the mind. In that way, understanding the mind is very, very crucial. That's what is the very mission of all the Buddhas. Making people to look at their own mind. Strength is also there, weakness is also there, suffering is also there, happiness is also there. Understand where is suffering, how it arises in the mind. Understand where is happiness, how it arises in the mind, and thereby destroy the suffering and the causes of suffering. That's what is the essence of all the Buddhas, the teachings of all the Buddhas. So, in that way, we should be grateful, one thing, and start respecting these qualities just like we respected in these chantings now. So first we, of course, we cultivated what is called this metta, this Karaniya Metta Sutta. And before that, of course, we appreciated Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and started prizing the qualities of Buddha, qualities of Dhamma, qualities of Sangha. Hmm. Dhamma is like teachings of Buddha, which will help us to work on our own mind and liberate our own mind and derive the true happiness from within. No need to search outside for the happiness. No need to surrender to 1 million things outside for the sake of happiness. That's what many people do. So if you start working on your own mind, then automatically you can derive happiness from within. And that's what the teachings of Buddha are all about how to go inwards, how to penetrate inwards, and to uh, derive this knowledge of fixing our suffering with our wisdom, thereby realizing the true happiness. That's what is the Buddha's teaching, and that is what is Dhamma. These teachings are around this right view only. Understanding right view is understanding Dhamma. Progressing in right view is progressing in Dhamma. And those who understood this right view, comprehended this right view, and thereby emancipated their mind, they are the community of Buddha. That is Sangha. The Arya Sangha is actually, it's both the monks, nuns, and also the lay people. So if they have completely developed the right faith in Buddha, without right faith, you can't lend your ear to the teachings of Buddha. That is the problem. That is the key. That's why one should understand the importance of right faith. Yes, this is the path. Though you may not be very clear, but at least intuitively you should feel with some little intelligence, little understanding, little sensitivity, little surrendering. Yes, it seems there is some sense in this path, in the teaching. Actually, each and every word of Buddha, it's about freeing the mind. That's what is the thumb rule given by Buddha. If you develop some kind of doubt about whether it is my teaching or it is not my teaching, then you just see the teachings. Whether the words, the teachings, if it liberates your mind, it frees your mind, and if you derive some joy of freedom, the true joy of the true happiness of freedom, then it is my words. Then authoritatively can follow this. So in that way, with some little wisdom, little surrendering, little opening of the eyes, little opening of the ears, if you develop intuitively some interest in Buddha's teachings, that's where your right faith has started. Then by knowing the qualities of the Buddha, the life of Buddha, how he conquered the mind so authoritatively and became Samma Sambuddha, for the sake of not only conquering his mind and freeing his mind, but also help millions and millions of beings, not just humans, even the divine beings, Brahmic beings also, to emancipate their minds, to liberate their minds, and to become absolutely free and progress in that path of true happiness. He helped millions and millions and billions of beings. That way, all these things, of course, it's not like some kind of unnecessarily prizing, like some kind of hero worship, which leads to some kind of fanaticism. No. Some kind of, in many religions that we can see, that's why many, even little wise people, they're scared of faith, they're scared of even these words, faith and surrendering and worship and praise and appreciation. They're a little bit scared because in the name of religion, in the name of faith, in the name of worship, in the name of even respect and appreciation, people are getting cheated. That is one thing, one risk. The second thing is the people are becoming blind followers, blind worshippers, blind supporters. And they are destroying themselves, they are destroying the people around them, they are destroying in the name of religion, in the name of support, in the name of worship, in the name of faith, and the name of good, wrongly interpret the good and destroy people, destroy others who don't follow their faith. That this hangama, this nonsense is going on in the world from time immemorial. It is very much there. But a person with a bit consciousness, bit conscience, and bit sensitivity, a bit intelligence, you can understand the very first point of the right view. Yeah, working on only body, simply building the body or satiating the senses, all the five physical senses, or inflating one's ego. People, they look for happiness in these inferior things like bodily satisfaction, bodily comfort, satiating the senses, uh, satiating the ego satisfaction, uh, getting some power, some name and fame, some popularity, or some getting some sensual pleasures through some wealth, some riches. mm. But they end up in so many other problems, mental problems, health problems, so many issues. And there is one more set of people who simply in the name of God, name of religion, name of spirituality also, they forget about the basic responsibilities of the life. And more than that, which will help them to take care of their body and the livelihood and the dependents. They forget about that. That is one thing. And the second thing is they forget about the mind, how to cultivate the mind. In the name of surrendering, in the name of bhakti, in the name of spirituality, that risk is also there. And avoiding these two extremes, working on one's own mind, that is right view. This point about the right view is good enough for even a person with little intelligence, uh, with little sensitivity to appreciate this right view. And again, surrender to this right view. Again, let me progress in this path. Let me give my more time, more energy, more resources, more intelligence, everything to understand, progress in this path and derive the true happiness through right view meditations, right view some physical actions, right view mental actions, right view verbal actions, that like right speech, right actions, right livelihood. All these things automatically a person will develop some. Right view is a trigger to think rightly, to meditate rightly, to speak rightly, to act rightly, to take up the jobs of the right livelihood in the right way. All these things will be triggered if you know this right view, a bit of right view. Just now I told, yeah, simply working on the body and the senses, it will not really give me the true happiness. If I try to fix one sense, if I try to satiate one sense, some other sense which will start craving, start torturing me. And the body is, of course, it's always changing. If I try to fix one pain in the body, some other pain will start. Hmm. So simply depending on the body for the happiness, it's not the right thing. And simply depending on some of these unknown things in the name of devotion, in the name of energy, in the name of bhakti, in the name of energy systems. That's what many yogic systems, they're bothered about energy. So energy systems, energy meridians, energy centers in the body, how to activate them, how to derive more energy. Energy is required for action, for success, for domination, for power, and even for some happiness, some lightness, some happiness in the body and mind. But that is not the ultimate. That Buddha realized. He practiced so many yogic systems. And he realized the problem is in the mind. Though you activate, you open up different energy chakras, energy meridians in the body. But again, if the mind gets corrupted with greed, headed delusion, ignorance, of not knowing the friends and the enemies in the mind and not fixing the enemies of the mind, the friends of the mind, then these energy chakras or these centers or these meridians, whatever you open, again they get corrupted. Because the main corrupting force is in the mind, is in these defilements. They are the root cause. They have to be fixed. They have to be removed. They have to be pulled out and destroyed. That way, if you don't work on the mind, whatever you do with your energy systems, with your physical energy, with your pranic energy, biological energy, hmm, life force, hmm, the materialistic energy, the materialistic powers, whatever you do, the change, and because the mind will change, because you have not worked on the mind, you are not removed, you have not plucked out the, the, the venomous roots of these defilements of the mind. So again, they start growing. Again, they start destroying all these powers and energies that you have opened up, that you have derived through all your yogic practices, through your religious practices, through your faith. That risk is very much there. That's why working on one's own mind, minding one's own mind's business, the business of the mind, understanding it, comprehending it, working on it bit by bit. Of course, if there are some, say, good influence, good guide, good community, then one can quickly progress in that. Otherwise, also, because of so many other factors, there's something called kala niyama. All the time, you may not get good guides, good teachers, good community. Even if it is bit by bit, now there is a lot of technology that will assist us, help us to go through the right teachings, to practice right meditations, to listen, to read the best teachings, the best meditations. So one will start progressing in this with this simple understanding of, yeah, these extremes are, it seems they don't give the true happiness. Yes, it is better to work on the mind, because mind is everything. All the wise people, they say, Mano Pubbangama Dhamma, everything arises from the mind. If you do, if you want to do good things, then the mind should be good. It should be made good. Automatically, a good mind will trigger the good actions, good speech, success, happiness, everything. If the mind is corrupted with a lot of defilements, then it will trigger wrong actions, wrong speech, failures, problems, tension, suffering. In that way, mind is the core, mind is the forerunner, mind is the source of all this good and bad, success and happiness. This is proclaimed, this is authoritatively, it is explained, proclaimed, and very authoritatively proved by all Buddhas. Yes, there is some sense in this. If that much of sensitivity if you have and if you understand, then you don't give up this, right? Then you don't surrender to all other unnecessary things and waste your time, energy, resources. And that's what is the right faith. Right faith is to avoid unnecessary things with some discretion by establishing this a bit of right view. And that will again push you to learn more and more right view. Again, the right view and right faith, they are like cyclical. If you develop a little bit of right view, then you enter into right faith. And if you progress a little bit in right faith, then you start learning more and more of right view. Right view, right faith, right view, right faith. That is a very wholesome cycle that will take you from this vicious cycle of craving and suffering, ignorance and suffering. Ignorance and suffering, that is also a cyclic. Ignorance, suffering, craving, of course. Ignorance means all these things, craving, hatred, delusion, all these things are ignorance. So this ignorance leads to suffering. And again, that suffering mind, that is a dumb mind, dull mind, will again increase the ignorance. Ignorance, suffering. That is one vicious cycle. We get trapped into it, not only in one life, lives after lives after lives. In this Bhava Chakra, we keep rolling in this trap, this cycle of vicious cycle of ignorance and suffering. To come out of this, you have to understand a bit of right view or a bit of right faith in right view. Then you will escape from this cycle of suffering and ignorance, and you will enter into this cycle of right view and right faith. So if you have right faith, it will trigger you to work more and more on right view, to develop more and more right view. Then definitely your right faith also becomes more and more. In that way, it will roll, and maybe in one life or maybe in 1 year, or if this understanding of right faith, right view, the cycle is quite powerful, then you can liberate based on your merits, based on your perfections, based on your previous lives' achievements in this path. We may get liberation in a moment also, that's possible. Of course, one need not be too ambitious. One should simply focus on the path instead of worrying about where I will reach. The very path, that very present moment, where you are completely imbued with right faith and right view, that itself gives tremendous happiness, tremendous freedom. That itself is very much enjoyable, mm, very much appreciable, very much soothing, very much relieving from a lot of stress and the nonsense of the world. So in that way, a bit of right view and surrendering to it, liking it. For surrendering, there should be a kind of appreciation, a kind of rejoicing in that knowledge, in that path, in the techniques of right view meditations, or right actions, or right speech. When you speak truth, you can experience there is a lot of joy. When you save some life, when you don't destroy life, then there is a lot of joy, a lot of inner joy you experience. Or when you are generous, then you experience tremendous joy. You can't, many times you can't explain why you are joyful, but these actions, these acts of generosity, acts of morality, acts of say not to kill, not killing or saving life, not lying or speaking truth, they give immense joy. Again, a sensitive person, he will understand this. Yes, now I'm working on the mind. I'm destroying my greed, my hatred, my delusion by speaking truth. By lying, why I lie? Generally, I lie because either of my greed, or because of my hatred, or because of my delusion. Because of these three reasons only, I lie. Once I started speaking truth, I'm avoiding this lying. That means I'm avoiding this greed, hatred, and delusion. That's why mind is becoming free. Mind is becoming empty or free from the different thoughts, again, which are generated by this greed, hatred, and delusion. That way, each and every step of the so-called meritorious actions like this generosity, if you offer, I remember when I was very young, many people, hundreds of people, they have given a lot of some small incidents that happened in their life, offering something to some person. It has given tremendous joy, and it can be remembered whole life. And when you remember that very incident, it gives immense joy. All your stress will go away, all your tension will go away. One person in Bangalore, he was telling me, was complete depression, and he offered some food to one old lady, and that gave him immense joy that he could forget about his depression for 1 week. He was so joyful for complete 1 week. Just that simple act of generosity, where mind has become free from a little bit of attachment of me, myself. Okay, let me offer something to someone. That very giving up, that very, like say, letting go of me and mine, and just offering to someone. How much true joy I derive, it is, like say, immeasurable. That's what he was telling me. In that way, of course, I can give hundreds of examples. So what's happening there, if you understand that, then you definitely understand the right view. Yeah, my greed, my hatred, my attachment, it is reducing. That is giving me immense joy when I am generous, when I am truthful, when I am non-violent, when I am saving life, when I am serving. It gives me a feeling of metta, loving kindness is generated in my mind, a compassion is generated in my mind. Me, myself, and that attachment to me has decreased. That is giving me immense joy. In that way, my enemies are reducing, my friends in the mind are increasing. That's why I'm deriving the true happiness. If that realization comes, then no person with some sense, some intelligence will give up this path. He will start, yeah, let me explore more and more. Let me, right, now I practice generosity. Now I am practicing 5 precepts. Let me practice 8 precepts. Let me see the beauty in this. How the 8 precepts will reduce my defilements in the mind, greed, hatred, and delusion. That he will start realizing. That he will start working more and more on the mind, more and more on different physical actions, meritorious actions. Generally, it is easy for majority of the people to practice the physical action. Then the verbal actions, it's relatively easy. Then the meditation, where you directly hit your defilements of the mind, you stop the thoughts which will arise because of the defilements of the mind, and you enter into that emptiness, the calmness, the brightness of the mind, freeness of the mind. Directly you enter in the meditations. That may be difficult for many people, but through the right wholesome actions, meritorious actions, whether they are physical or verbal actions, if a person start deriving some taste, some beauty, some true happiness, then that very taste, that very pleasantness, that very true happiness will become a trigger for him to work more and more, to progress in meditation, to progress in service, serving the right cause, right vision, right mission of promoting this kind of teachings, meditations, and then learning some more techniques of these meritorious actions. There are so many other meritorious actions like Pattidana, Pattanamodana, both of them can be called as Punyanamodana. Listening to these teachings, that also again will open up the different channels of the mind about right and wrong, about good and bad, about beneficial and not beneficial. A lot of clarity we will start getting. Different dimensions of the mind will start opening up. And then straightening the view, Jittiju Kamma. That is one more meritorious action. By practicing this right to meditations, one can start straightening his view. He will come out of the wrong views, wrong influences, wrong beliefs. Many of them. Actually, almost all belief systems in the world, they are wrong belief systems. They fall into the extremes. It is only the Buddhas they discovered the right view and based on the right view, right belief systems. I'm not simply boasting very authoritatively by thoroughly going through all the different views. I am expressing this very authoritative that this is what is Buddha's teaching, which is absolutely authoritative, perfect. There is no need to step back. There is no need to look back. In that way, through this kind of inspiration and say talks or some quotes or some inspiring words from the authoritative masters, or through books, through teachings, through meditations, through right community, start getting the glimpse of this right view, then definitely you develop more and more right faith in this, and you start exploring more and more, whether it is through meditations or through these meritorious actions. Different kinds of meritorious, they're an indirect way of fixing the mental defilements. Different meritorious actions like generosity, morality, the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 10 precepts. We keep progressing in that. Indirectly, they will fix you. You practice one moral precept. It is fixing your greed, hatred, and delusion. It is reducing your greed, hatred, and delusion. That's why you're deriving the true happiness. That very true happiness is a trigger. It's a motivation. It's an inspiration for a person to go more deep and deep, deeper and deeper, more deep into these moral practices, into these meritorious actions. In that way, one should understand the connection between the right faith and the right view. कुछ लोग हिंदी में बोलने के लिए पूछ रहे थे, राइट फेथ मतलब श्रद्धा, सही श्रद्धा, सम्यक श्रद्धा। श्रद्धा किसका ऊपर रखना है? कुछ टेम्पररी चीज के लिए, कुछ पाने के लिए, शरीर के लिए खाने पीने का, शरीर के लिए कपड़ा, अलग अलग चीज चाहिए, उसके लिए कुछ चीज का ऊपर, कोई एक आदमी का ऊपर, एक रिलीजन का ऊपर, एक पावर का ऊपर श्रद्धा रखने से वो सही श्रद्धा नहीं होगा। हाँ, क्योंकि वो टेम्पररी है, वो क्षणिक है, वो थोड़ी देर के लिए है। जो पाया है वो खत्म हो जाने का बाद में अगेन टेंशन आता है, अगेन क्रेविंग आता है, अगेन लोभ आता है, अगेन मन में लोभ का सेटिस्फेक्शन नहीं होने से द्वेष आता है, द्वेष में कुछ नहीं होने से मोह अज्ञान और भी बढ़ते जाता है। ये तीनों, लोभ द्वेष मोह, एक साइकिल जैसा है, एक को एक पकड़ के साथ साथ में जाता है। ये चक्रा, ये लोभ द्वेष मोह का चक्रा, ये नाश करने के लिए ये राइट व्यू, मन का अच्छा क्या है, बुरा क्या है, मन में कुछ शत्रु क्या है, मन का मित्र क्या है, मन का ऊपर काम करने से राइट व्यू बेस्ड कुछ अलग अलग प्रैक्टिसेस जो है, राइट व्यू मतलब ये समाधिटी, दृष्टिकोण, सही दृष्टिकोण, मन का ऊपर काम करना, मन को शुद्ध करना ही सही व्यू है, सही दृष्टि है। जो कुछ छोटा मोटा चीज के लिए किसी का ऊपर श्रद्धा रखना सही श्रद्धा नहीं है। मन को साफ करने का ये ज्ञान जो है, ये एक्शंस जो है, ये अलग अलग काम, फील लेना, दान देने को सीखना, सेवा करने को सीखना, धम्मा सुनने को सीखना, पुण्यानुमोदना करने को सीखना, ध्यान करने को सीखना, अलग अलग ज्ञान, यही मन को ठीक करने का तरीका है। ये मन का ऊपर, मन ही सबका मूल है, इसलिए जो मन को साफ करने का जो रास्ता है, वो रास्ता में जाना जरूरी है। वो रास्ता का ऊपर, वो लक्ष्य का ऊपर श्रद्धा रखने से वो सही श्रद्धा है। Having faith in the path which liberates my mind, which will help me to derive the true happiness from the mind. There, if I keep my confidence, my faith, my appreciation, my connection, my efforts to learn and progress in that, then it is right faith. For some temporary things, for some say ephemeral things, transient things, which absolutely lack clarity, which are like gives very temporary happiness. After that, again the mind gets corrupted with more craving, more greed, more delusion, more hatred. That kind of paths, that kind of teachings, that kind of actions, if I get involved into that kind of influencing people, if I keep my faith in such people, in such actions, in such teachings, then I will end up in more suffering. I will end up in more corruption of the mind, then end up in more suffering. In the name of happiness, I get trapped into more suffering. If that discrete knowledge if you have, then definitely you enter into right faith. And that will trigger you to learn more and more of right faith and right view and right view based actions, physical actions, mental actions, verbal actions. The right view based physical actions are this generosity, morality, morality especially not to kill, not to steal, not to indulge in sexual misconduct, not to take intoxicants. Then right verbal actions are not to lie, not to speak harshly, not to backbite, talk unnecessary things also. All these things is to start avoiding by understanding its implications, its consequences, its repercussions, the after effects of these wrong speech, wrong actions. So in that way, we'll start entering into the right view based actions, whether physical actions or verbal actions, meritorious actions, and then the mental actions also, like meditations and all, to start practicing. सही श्रद्धा बढ़ाते बढ़ाते सही दृष्टिकोण, सही ज्ञान में आदमी लोग बढ़ते जाएगा, सही ज्ञान आते आते सही श्रद्धा भी बढ़ते जाएगा। ये सही चक्र है, ये सही तरीका से मन को, जिंदगी को लेके जाने का तरीका है। कुछ छोटा मोटा चीज के लिए बहुत लोभी बनना, बहुत द्वेषी बनना, बहुत अज्ञानी होके छोटा मोटा चीज के लिए वो चक्कर में गिर जाने से वो भव चक्र है, वही अज्ञान का चक्र है। उससे बच के एक ज्ञान चक्र में, ये समाधित्य का चक्र में, समाधित्य और सम्मा श्रद्धा, सही श्रद्धा और सही ज्ञान, ये चक्र में आना बहुत 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 जरूरी है। So in that way, you should understand the connection between this right faith and right view. Don't ignore right faith. Many people, we know Buddha's teaching, we know Four Noble Truths, we know Noble Eightfold Paths, we know we have read so many books, but they don't get that inspiration to practice. Simply at the intellectual level, knowing it will not help you to practice these things. Even a small action like a moral action, you don't feel like practice. There is no inspiration. There is no, even I have seen many people, after reading so many books, after even practicing some, thinking this itself as the right meditation, adamantly, very in a stubborn way, they practice years and years, decades and decades, and they become more stubborn in their physical actions, in their behavior, in their personality, in their verbal actions. Also, there will not be any change at all. They look more rigid, more stubborn, so more selfish also, more proud and arrogant also. So that's why I used to tell all our active meditators in most in any program for that matter, bring in the balance between these right actions, whether it is right physical actions and right verbal actions, with this right mental action, the meditation, along with, of course, your intellectual knowledge. Intellectual knowledge about the teachings, it should be given the last priority. The first priority should be given to these right mental actions like meditations, right view meditations, right physical actions like these meritorious actions, and also verbal actions, the right speech. Again, it comes in the meritorious actions. These things should be given actually higher importance. If you don't have the right faith, yes, these things intuitively, if you don't feel that, yes, these things will bring a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of confidence, a lot of zeal, and a lot of inner joy if I practice these meritorious actions. And it will help me to practice meditations more authoritatively, more freely, more joyfully, more confidently. Then you can progress in meditations also. Then you can actualize your intellectual knowledge about the Four Noble Truths, about all the teachings of Buddha. When you plunge into actual actions, the right physical actions, the right mental actions, the right verbal actions. Without this, whatever we know, it will simply, it will inflate our egos only. It will inflate our pride and we know many things. We know itself is a big enemy. In meditation, in all these actions, actually, so that burden will reduce to a great extent, and that's how you derive the true joy. The burden of I know is the biggest burden, the biggest trap, the biggest entanglement, the biggest mess that will pull us into a lot of suffering. To come out of that kind of trap, that kind of burden, that kind of say net jala, that calls it as the jala, like net, the entanglement. You want to escape from that, then one has to plunge into these meritorious, right, physical actions like service, like apachayana, respecting the respectables, and doing these chantings and prayer. It's not like prayer, actually, it's remembering the teachings, the greatness of Buddha, his teaching, Sangha. So in that way, we should, the point here is we should work practically with these right physical actions, right mental actions, right verbal actions, like meditations, like morality, generosity, service, Jnanamodana, Dhamma Desana, Dhamma, right meditations. along with your say the learning, the scriptures. That is the right way to establishing both the right view and also the right faith. Okay. So again, one more way of developing right faith hmm, is to know the qualities of the Buddha and the qualities of the Dhamma, qualities of the Sangha. Again, there are so many uh, say supports that we will get to know about these qualities of Buddha, Dhamma. So again, don't take it in a blind way, but just to inflate your ego, just to see its practicality, just to learn everything, all Buddha's teachings, it's with its practical significance. Yeah, Buddha has taught about generosity. Yeah, by practicing generosity, what is the use? How I'm deriving the happiness? That you should see inwards and find out how it is helping me to derive the happiness. He sacrificed many things in his life. Everything he sacrifices for the sake of one animal, one ordinary person. To fulfill his form is to purify his mind, to come out of the attachment towards the physical things. Why he has done this? Oh, it will liberate my attachment to these physical things. Thereby, it liberates my mind from greed, hatred, and delusion and attachment. The mind also it liberates. That's why he practiced. Oh, let me also practice. That way, we should be inspired by the actions of Buddha and the teachings of Buddha to experiment to see in your own life. Then you develop right faith, then you develop right view, and then you progress in this path. Simply for the sake of intellectual excitement or entertainment. Many times, spirituality also like an entertainment, prizing the virtues of the spiritual leaders. They take it as an entertainment. Sometimes they use it for so many other political and social reasons also. But one's own welfare, one's own mind purification, if you use, then you are into, then you will definitely enter into right faith. And then you start learning more and more of right view. You should be an enthusiastic aspirant of true happiness. Then only in a balanced way you will establish in right faith and right view. Simply for the sake of some petty reasons, some petty political or social reasons, or some vested interests, some ego inflation, some cheap things. If you start reading Buddha's teachings, then it simply inflates your ego. That's all. In no way it helps you, and rather it corrupts your mind many times. So all these, the life story of Buddha, his achievements in the life, and all the Buddhas, there are life stories of not only Gautam Buddha. There are so many Buddhas. At least some 28 Buddhas are mentioned in the scriptures. Their life stories, the life stories of Buddha's disciples. That is also quite inspiring. Next, of course, the teachings of Buddha. Again, it is like say compiled in so many volumes. Each and every word inspires me. I appreciate each and I completely like it fills each and every word of Buddha. It fills, and each and every anecdote in the life of Buddha. It is eye-opening. It liberates a lot of ignorance. It will just say destroys a lot of ignorance in the mind. And today's significance. That is again one more very special, very unique to Buddha. His enlightenment, his birth, and also his great demise. It happened on this day only. This you can't see in any other teacher, spiritual leader, or spiritual teacher. The birth, Vaishak Purnima, the month of Vaishakha, certainly comes in this month of May. And then his enlightenment happened on the same day, Vaishak Purnima day. And his great demise, what also happened during this Vaishakha Purnima day. So you don't see such a kind of coincidence in the life of any other master in the world. Of course, that is one thing, one interesting thing, and that's why it carries more meaning to remember the entire life of Buddha, from birth to the great demise, including this crucial stage that is the enlightenment. That will come to our mind when we celebrate this Buddha Purnima. And Buddha Purnima is not just Buddha Jayanti. You should remember, Buddha Purnima is Buddha Jayanti, uh, Buddha's enlightenment, and Buddha's great demise, Mahaparinibbana. Buddha's Mahaparinibbana day also this day. Buddha's enlightenment day is also this day. Buddha's birth is also this day. This entire complete package of Buddha's life, the very mission, the very vision and mission of the life of Buddha, it will come in our mind when we celebrate this program, because it includes all these three major events of the life events of Buddha. In that way, this is very unique, this Buddha Purnima. And even the birth is also with a very, very skillfully, very systematically, very consciously Buddha's take birth. Selecting the moral parents, selecting the right place, selecting the right family also. Some 6 factors they look into, the 8 factors they look into, minimum 5 factors, sometimes 8 factors they look into to take the birth. All these factors, if you see, why Buddha has chosen the morality, moral parents. The moral parents are the wise parents. And why some influential family? Because his mission is to teach. And he takes birth in an influential family, then his mission will be fulfilled. And right region, it's called Majjhima Desha. So in the Majjhima Desha, everything is moderate. So in a moderate country, in a moderate place, everything, whether food, the physical dimensions, the mentality, everything will be moderate. Then such a moderate mind is a balanced mind. The people in that place also, relatively, they are more moderate, more balanced. And to start teaching to such a community, to such a society will be easy. And such people can understand this middle path. The people of middle region, they can understand this teaching of middle path. That's why Buddhas take birth in this middle land, Majjhima Desha. All the physical features, intellectual features, emotional features, if you see, there's an absolute sense in this. The people in this middle land, they have that moderation. They have that you can see. It's not like, I don't say now, if you say teach this to some people, some Westerners and all, it's like racism and all in that way. It's like racist, something like that they may say. No, it's not like from the racist view. It is like, it is the actual, there is something called good and bad. There is something called suitable and not suitable. There's something called beneficial and not beneficial. You can't mess up everything. In the name of equality, in the name of universality, you can't mess everything. That kind of discrete wisdom of noting what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, what is true happiness, what is not true happiness, what is moral, what is not moral, based on this true happiness, based on this suitability. That the Buddhas, they choose, they select, they decide, and then they take birth. But Buddha decided when he was in a divine realm before coming to his mother's womb, all these factors. That's why in his birth itself, there is a great teaching of moderation. There is a great teaching of this right view of good begets good. Moderation leads to moderation. Moderation leads to understanding of the things in a very authoritative way, in a balanced way. You can't embrace each and everything. You can't go and embrace, oh, everything is one. Tiger is also good. Cat is also good. All are animals. For me, everything is okay, everything is fine, everything is one. You have to love, of course, every animal, every person, every being. But if there is some evilness, some badness, some immorality, some ignorance, then from a distance one should love, one should appreciate, not going close to it and embrace it. That kind of discretion of what is right, what is wrong, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, that Buddhas decide. Because everything is, you see, tit for tat, good begets good. That understanding also one should have. So then again it will add up to right view. Then one will be develop that kind of discretionary wisdom, that kind of discretionary intelligence, skillfulness of choosing right, avoiding the wrong. That's what is the Four Noble Truths. Anything that causes suffering, they're all evil, and you should avoid it. Or you can't simply say, oh, everything is fine, everything is equal, one and the same. I will just embrace all the evil rooted in the craving, rooted in ignorance. That is absolutely horrible ignorance. That's what many people in the name of religion they teach that kind of view. I was into the trap for so many years. I wasted a lot of my life. Of course, I learned the, the difficulties of that view and the intricacies, the limitations, the evilness of that thoroughly after comparing, after coming here. But still, sometimes I feel if I would have learned this right view and established in this right view, I would have done a lot of work. If I got this, maybe when I was very young. But of course, it's okay. That way, that discrete wisdom based on this tit for tat, good begets good, bad begets bad, cause and effect. Hmm? Even the Buddhas, they choose, they don't do the things indiscriminately. They do it very skillfully, very rationally, very disciplined. Though they are so wise, so powerful, still they look for this kind of discretion. So in that very birth itself, we are learning so many right view things, and thereby we can develop a lot of right faith towards Buddha. In the very conception, in the very birth of Buddha itself. By understanding the mind of Buddha at the time of conception, we can learn a lot of right view aspects, and thereby we can develop a lot of right faith, Buddha and his teachings, his community, and his true representatives. And his enlightenment also, it happened, you see, he went through the extremes and he realized there is no happiness in the extremes. He enjoyed all the sensual pleasures when he was a prince in the palace. And he realized there is no meaning in this. It's all rubbish. There's no true joy in all these sensual things, all these worldly materialistic things, sense pleasures. And again, for 6 years after leaving the house, he tortured his body so much so that he would have died so many times. So much of fasting, so much of physical torturing, the heat, in the cold, without clothes, without standing on one leg, sleeping on the rocks, sleeping in the open sun, open air. So many practices. For 6 years he tortured, and again he realized this much of too much torturing the body in the name of liberating my inner being, my soul. By torturing the body, I can liberate the soul. That's what again so many spiritual practices they encourage that. So much of fasting, so much of torturing. This is also useless. It will not help me. Then he remembered the jhana path, entering into the absorption, deep absorption, where it is quite pleasant, where you are taking care of your body, whatever the body is required, not too much feeding or not too much torturing the body, and entering into the mind, understanding the mind, and entering into the absorption by thoroughly understanding the mind, and entering into this mind sense, transcending these physical senses. And then he realized jhana. Then he continued, and then he started noting the ultimate matter and mind, and that he could completely emancipate from this defilements of the mind, and thereby he could achieve the Samma Sambodhi. So there also the teachings of moderation, avoiding the extremes, and the mind-centeredness, going inwards, by keeping the body, whatever the body wants, by protecting the body with whatever basic necessities the body requires, some proper food, proper shelter. So his 5 disciples, they ran away from him. They just left him, thinking that he is not a true spiritual person. He is indulging in his sensual pleasures when he started receiving food and taking some good food. He is body centered. That was the notion of many people. Spiritual person should completely ignore body. Should simply think about God and only always thinking about God and ignore the body. Absolute ignorance. That Buddha realized. He came, I understood this importance of moderation. After he listened to uh, one this uh, one veena or one lute, one string instrument. When it is too tight, the string, then it can't produce good sound. When it is too loose also, the string, it will not produce good sound, good music. So it should be moderately tight, moderately fitted into that instrument, that string. Then only it can produce good music. That he realized, and then he remembered that he achieved when he was a young boy, sitting under one jambu tree, jamun tree. And he realized that actually that going inwards and again he remembered that all these futile, all these 60 years practices, futility, unnecessary waste. He realized the extremes are waste. That's what he realized. And then when he entered into that right moderation and the right mind centeredness, going inwards in the mind, then he started all steps of liberation, started realizing all the stages of enlightenment. Within 12 hours, he became completely enlightened on this day, Vesak full moon day. So that also teaches us so many things. Again, moderation, middle path, mind centeredness, going inwards, not torturing the body too much, not indulging in the body too much. So many things it will teach us. Then it will again increase your right faith in this path, in this view, in this goal. Then his great demise also. His great demise, his Mahaparinibbana also happened on the same day, this day, that is Vesak full moon day. And during that time also, one of the disciples, he was like, everybody were around Buddha, and one disciple, he was not with Buddha. Where is he? He inquired, and some people said that he is not here, he went somewhere. So go and find him, bring him. So when he was brought, he was asked, where were you? You were supposed to be with the teacher. Now his last minutes. Then he told, I was practicing my meditation. Then Buddha appreciated him. That's what is required. Blindly following the physical body of the teacher is ignorance. That is not the true respect to Buddha. If you want to give true respect to the teacher, then you should follow his teachings and practice those teachings. I appreciate this disciple more than the people who simply trying or say lamenting for my body or for my about thinking about my death and all. So that's again great teaching. The true disciple should follow the teaching and practice the teaching and progress in the teaching. That is the best way to reward your teacher, best way to show your full respect to your teacher. And again, one more disciple he came and he wanted to learn from Buddha. And one of the chief attendants, of course, he is the main chief attendant, Ananda, Venerable Ananda. He said, no, now he can't teach. Buddha is in the last minutes. No, I don't depend on the people like you, they were the disciples. I want to directly learn from Buddha. Then Buddha asked him to allow him to come and meet Buddha. Then he came to Buddha and he requested Buddha to teach. And at that time also Buddha taught him. He understood what he wanted and accordingly he taught him and he became an Arya. He could realize enlightenment. So again it shows the very mission of Buddha is to teach each and everyone, even at the last minute, the time of death also. That again inspires us. What he taught. Let us learn this. So much is dedicated for the cause, for his mission, for his vision, or to teach. Why can't I learn? That again inspires. That way, at the time of death also, there are so many inspiring things that happen. Like these two things I told you. And given the last words of Buddha. Strive diligently. Everything is changing. Everything is anicca. Strive diligently, mindfully, yeah. Mindfully you strive and liberate your mind. That is the sole purpose of human. That is the last teaching. Everything is changing. There is no need to get attached to all these changing things of the mind, of the body, of the world. Work on your own mind. Understand this changing nature of the phenomena inside the mind. Then you can understand the changing nature of the external things. That's why develop more and more awareness to realize this changing nature of the mind, changing nature of the body, changing nature of the world. Once you realize thoroughly about this changing nature of all these things, you are liberated. You'll understand this changing nature is related to suffering, oppression, or disturbance of the peace, of the equanimity of the mind. And you can start realizing about the ultimate nature of this body and mind also. For that, develop awareness, develop mindfulness. So in that way, last words also, they are inspiring and they will give us the very essence of Buddha's teachings that our lives is to work on the mind, to develop awareness, to understand the impermanent nature of the things. For that, one should risk anything in the life for the sake of this awareness, for the sake of this realization of changing nature of everything in the mind and the body and the world, thereby how it leads to suffering and all other problems. If you don't have the realization of anicca jnana, then all other suffering will follow. Letting go becomes very difficult. You get simply attached to one thing or the other thing and simply get stressed, get disappointed, get confused. In that way, even the last teaching of the Buddha is very inspiring. It gives so many insights, so many, dimensions. Different people they can take these last words. Strive diligently, strive mindfully. Everything is changing. So those words will give different insights to different people, and it will motivate people, it will inspire people to progress on this path of right view with right faith. Okay. I think that's what is the message of this Buddha Purnima day. Like all these three major events in the life of Buddha that happened on the same day, Vesak Full Moon Day, and all these three events of Buddha, they have a lot of resourcefulness to give us a lot of inputs, ideas, to learn, to establish in right view with right faith, right confidence, right surrendering, rightly lending the ears. So that's what is today's Dhamma talk. So with this Dhamma talk and with this today's celebration of Buddha Purnima, may all of you establish in the right view with absolute right faith and progress, whether it is bit by bit or if you take leaps, it is left to your punya, your ability, your enthusiasm, but progress, but take up the path. That is the point, that is the message. So with this message, we will conclude again with one small chanting, because again we have one more class, this Buddha Purnima special basic course. Okay, we will conclude with one small chanting. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata सब बुद्धानुभावेन सब धम्मानुभावेन सब संघानुभावेन सदा स्वती भवन्तु ते सुखी भवेयन्नि दुःखो अहंनिच्चा अहंविया पिता चा मे सुखी होन्तु मा जत्ता चतवेरिनो इमां हिगमन्ते धम्मे सत्ता होन्तु सुखी सदा ततो परं चारज्येषु चक्रवालेषु जन्तुनो सब्बे बुद्धा बलपाता पच्चेकानं च यं बलं अर्हन्तानं च तेजेन रक्तं बन्धामि सब्बसो सब्बे धम्मा बलपाता आर्य सच्चनं च यं बलं धम्मचक्रस्य तेजेन रक्तं बन्धामि सब्बसो सब्बे संगा बलपाता विमुक्तानं च यं बलं शासनस्य तेजेन रक्तं बन्धामि सब्बसो इमिना पुण्यकमेन मामे बालसमागमो सतं समागमो होतु यावनिब्बानपत्तिया इदं मे पुण्याकमं आसवक्कयं वहं होतु सब्बदुःखापमुच्यतु निब्बान संपच्चयो होतु साधु 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 सुखी होन्तु मंगल हो may all of you be happy healthy and peaceful may all beings also be happy healthy and peaceful may all of you progress in this right view right faith may all of you be successful in trotting this path सुखी होन्तु मंगल हो भवतु सर्वमंगलम्